Welcome everybody to our live stream here on lichess and Twitch. International Master William Pascal. This is our subscriber stream, game analysis with our friends and subscribers. It's been a long week and day, guys, but I'm happy to be back. After yesterday, I had a little problem with Windows. I had to do an unplanned cancellation of yesterday's morning stream due to technical difficulties that we were able to subsequently correct. I hate Microsoft. I just want to say that. So, I couldn't get my webcam to work, and had to figure out how to roll back the drivers on my computer to get my webcam working again. That took a while, so in the meantime, I missed a stream, but we're good. Everything's back to normal. Today I'm hosting in-depth analysis for everybody. I've got submissions from a bunch of players. Snuggles the Snail, what's up? Snuggles the Frog Snail. Thank you for being here. We've got Bijak, Igara, Yubadis, Sadamasa, Asterbait, Princess, and Move 11, I believe. I feel like I'm missing somebody. I am missing somebody, am I not? No, I said Asterbait. Maybe I didn't say Asterbait. I think I skipped you, Asterbait. Alright, Bijak, Igara, Yubadis, Sadamasa, Asterbait, Princess, and Move 11. I wrote a very sloppy Move 11. You know you have bad handwriting when you can't read your own writing? Imagine like another person trying to read your writing. It's good to be first. How are you first? Yeah, because you didn't get in last time. I feel kind of bad for Bijak. He's not really first. He's actually last from last week. Anyway, we're gonna get started analyzing some games here. So, where are we looking? Let's stop this engine. Where are we looking? In the messages. Alright, inbox. Bijak. Sumahair. That's the problem, I gotta remember everybody's name. Cockatier, yes. I think we have time for one more. By the way, I got your email and or your message, and I've had a really crazy couple days. We'll get back to you. In addition to working a lot, I have to file my income taxes. It's not good. Alright, don't talk to an American for like a week when they have to file their federal income taxes. Anyway, Sumahair is here. I can fix it, but needed time. No, I was having a conversation. Alright, so where's your submission? Sumahair was asking about the stream from yesterday. lichess.org. Yeah, I usually do 10 games from subscribers to the stream. But it doesn't have to be 10 necessarily. Wow, Sumahair played in IM. Do I like Aliak in defense? It's like, you know, the joke about never mind. Anyway, it's something I like, but it doesn't like me. The Aliakin is very hard to play. I like it up until a level, but it's a very, very difficult opening to play, honestly. It's effective. I like it. It's fun, but I don't recommend it like as your main opening. At the master level, at least. It's a good example of how to learn hypermodern chess. I don't have a very good score with it in serious games. I think it's very, very tough. This is Sumahair versus an international master, Shock Trainer Shah. Player I'm not familiar with. Wow. Sumahair has some sort of awesome performance in this game, it looks like. Although he's had some practice against me. Yeah, Yontar. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Jontar or Yontar. As an American Hungarian mix now, I'm a little confused about how to say the J. I was brought up with the J. Bijak. Bijak. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I think it's playable, of course. It's interesting. I like playing Aliakins for fun. So the Bijak's game against a German IM here. He's playing white, d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, and then c5. Wow. So black played... Oh, it's a Swedish name. Okay. Well, I guess you got the going. Not an American or Spanish J. Javier. So, okay. So he played basically a standard Tarash move order. Oh, move 11. I got you. You submitted my game we didn't have time to get to last week. Okay. You and Bijak are... Move 11, are you at the top of the list? We'll do you second. Since you were neglected last week, we'll push you up to the front of the list with Bijak, because we're doing the same thing with Bijak. Actually, I just remember I have a friend from Serbia from years and years and years ago. Once I visited him in Belgrade. His name is Bijan. Is that connected at all? No, his name is Boyan. That's it, Boyan. I'm crazy. His name is Boyan. It's not Bijan. Boyan. Knight f3. Yeah, Boyan. He's a good friend of mine if I remember his name well. A friend I haven't seen in 20 years. Alright guys, what are we up to? Astrobay, thanks 100 bits. So, Bijak, I'm going to start calling you Bijan pretty soon. CD5 is the normal move here. They're both names. Right, Boyan is a different name. So, CD5, ED5. You didn't know this. Yeah, it's amazing. Actually, you can get in big trouble by playing knight f3. Serbian. It's close to Dutch. Just a little bit further south. Knight f3. Big time mistake, right? You would think like this would be a perfectly safe move. And then black just takes on d4. So this is shocking for me. I mean, I don't know what time control was this game. 10 plus 20. Anonymous Gifter. This was played a long time ago. Anonymous Gifter just gifted a tier 1 sub to Slaggie's community. Speaking of myself in the third person. Sean Pinto, tier 1 sub. Thank you, Anonymous Gifter. How can an IM not play c takes d4 here? Dude, I'd be so excited that my opponent played knight f3. I mean, you played the Tarash, right? How often does your opponent screw it up and play like knight f3 on move 4? That's incredible. And he doesn't do c takes d4? Was he like playing autopilot or something? I mean, damn. You would think like anybody who played this move order would be excited to really take advantage of your inaccuracy. Obviously, after queen takes, we have some sort of Harry Nelson Pillsbury playing white here. That's not good. Because like d4 is going to kill you. And after knight takes, you're going to experience the wonders of e5. The wonders of e5, knight b5, a6, or something like that. I'm not at all happy about this. Like, we have a serious problem, so either way. King of Pizza, appreciate the challenge, but I'm doing game analysis today. A lot of different stuff, Mr. Coffee. I'm on a Chrome browser. I don't know if that's why I have that weird stuff. And I'm on a new chair. Well, it's not a new chair, it's an old chair that's been here, but I haven't used in a long time. So I might be sitting at a different angle than usual. And does lichess show the blue moves? I guess this is like Bijak's like, that's his study. I know those things. Oh, because it's on Chrome, right? It's because I'm on Chrome. I don't have like settings enabled, I guess. I didn't think about it. I wanted to have Stockfish 13. This is why I have the Chrome turned on, or why I presented the stream in Chrome for the lichess. Generally, I like Firefox better, but it doesn't work with Stockfish 13. I'm analyzing subscriber games that were submitted to me. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Something like 9. Alright. But I just don't get it, you know. Black has to play CD and he has a good game. That's a striking mistake from an IM. I've done stupider stuff. But I mean, after knight c6, you're back in main territory. After pawn takes pawn, g3. Rubinstein played g3, e3, bishop f4, bishop g5. Every possible variation against the Tarrasch, which was very popular at the start of the 20th century. This was an extremely popular system. You played e3, so this is like a semi-Tarrasch after e3. It's fine. It's just, it's not like as aggressive as the other lines with c takes d5. Absolutely standard position. Good luck against Schieberspieler. Alright, so we've got e3, knight f6, and now cd5, which is one of the main moves. I think the main move for white in this position is actually a3. I remember I had some game against Cherish Lajos, Grandmaster, where he did knight e4, and I was completely confused. Like, what are you supposed to do next after that? I remember a game like that. a3 is the main line, and then a6 usually, with total symmetry. But instead you played cd5. I think this is a good move too. Black can capture either way. With ed5, yeah, Sean Pinto, congratulations on the gift sub. cd5 or knight d5. This is just, you know, question of how aggressive black wants to be here. Ed is more aggressive. Knight takes d5 is safer. So now you're supposed to play bishop e5, I believe, is the sharpest move. The one time I played this position, I lost with white. I think I played against Kaidanov, and it was like bishop e2. I'm basically playing like the Caro-Kann with white. Not very exciting. Yeah, you're playing the Caro-Kann Panov with white. But the best is to play it like a Nimzo with bishop e4. Bishop e5 in this case. You know, the problem with d takes c5, you're helping his pieces develop. So this is standard. I think this is the most dynamic. You played, what, bishop e2, cd4, and now you took with the pawn, which is fine, but not typical. More common probably to play knight takes d4. You know, actually, come to think of it, I'm not sure how common it is for him to play pawn takes pawn now. I mean, a6 is probably a typical move. For black, just like waiting. And then when you castle, he has options like bishop g4, bishop d6. It's basically a reverse Caro-Kann, right? Panov. Bishop e2, cd4, so ed4. Now you have the symmetrical structure, which I wouldn't be really excited to play for either side, honestly. And now h6, a good move by your opponent, taking away bishop g5, I guess. Bishop f4. And it's equal. This is equal. But you do have good control of e5. Now, it makes you wonder, I mean, should black play bishop d6, even though it's going to trade as... It's probably too late now, knight e5. You know, this is an interesting line. Maybe it's too late for him to play bishop d6. But he still needs to develop his pieces. I mean, once you play knight e5, it looks like you're just a little bit better. You establish the outpost on e5. Maybe it's not much. I'm not really sure what he's getting at with bishop e4. I mean, he doesn't really want to give up that bishop necessarily. Rook e1 and now bishop g4. And then knight e5. So it's equal approximately. Rook takes, and I would think that black would go with bishop takes c3 here. And try to use the fact that he has maybe kind of annoying like knight e4 type moves. I mean, having said bishop b4, why doesn't he play it like a Nimzo and try to play with like good knight versus maybe bad, semi-bad bishop? I would think like bishop takes c3. Let's see what the engine says. It might like the bishop too much. So the computer is like a caught between that move and now changed its mind. It likes his move. Rook c8. I guess this is a perfectly okay move. It's just that our bishop's on b4 pinning nothing here. And now rook c1. Now he takes. And now you took with a rook, activating a rook. I mean, what has he really gained from this? He activated your rook for you. If he had exchanged before, your rook would still be on the first rank. So you got a very simplified position. White is like a tiny bit better based on bishop versus knight, maybe. I don't know. I guess he's right to take with the queen here. This is a very, very sort of tactical position. I want to say it's just equal. It's not a barn burner. He expects you to make a mistake in the endgame, being in 1900. Looks like he played well. Both sides play well. And then this is a very surprising move. Queen c1. I mean, your queen seems like it has a kind of active square in a way already on d1, and it's protecting d4. Queen c1 was interesting. I want to see what the computer evaluates here. It suggests h3 with a tiny edge for white based on bishop versus knight. I mean, that makes sense. That takes away knight g4. It gives him luft, or gives you luft. It's totally standard move, like in a London system. Bring the bishop back. Sean Pinto, I don't like chess puzzles. Chess puzzles are sort of boring. I don't do them on my stream or anything like that. It's like doing math problems or something. I never did my math problems. That's why I had to drop my college math classes. I found the math problems sort of boring. So I'd rather play than do puzzles. And I like analyzing positions. But these are not puzzles, okay? What you see on lichess, they're not puzzles. Puzzles are like artistic positions that have been composed. These are simply demonstrate now what the computer, says is the best move in this random position. That's not a chess puzzle, by the way. That's sort of bastardizing chess puzzles. Chess puzzle is supposed to be like a composition. These are just random positions that were put into some sort of program and spit out, and you're supposed to guess what the computer says is the best move. That's not a puzzle. That's just a random position. Teaching people to try to be computers. I don't really like the puzzles. Rook c2, queen b5, queen c1. Active here. He's got a possible sack on h6. Rook e8. Very technical position now. f3, controlling the white squares. e4, creating luft for the king. I mean, I expected him to come down. Like, why doesn't he penetrate here with queen e2? I mean, you're pretty tied down after queen e2. You have a trick with queen c8. I mean, the first problem is this guy trying to win against a low-rated player in a slightly worse position? Anything playing chess is good for your tactics. Playing a lot of blitz, you don't need to play bullet chess, Megalodon. Playing blitz is good enough to improve your tactics. I would recommend just playing 5-minute blitz, lots of 5-minute blitz. That's all you need to do. King h7. I'm not saying it's bad for you to do puzzles. I'm just saying I don't want to do it on my stream for entertainment purposes. King h7. What about this queen e2? So queen e2 is equal. Black instead plays king h7, giving you the chance to play, for example, queen c2 check, and then king f2, and now white is a little bit easier to play. I mean, I wonder if he was scared, honestly, of what? Why didn't he play queen e2? Like, queen c8 check, king h7, queen f5, there's mate here. So it's not like black can play g6 and you grab the piece and it's all good, There's actually no problem for black there. For me, that's weird that he didn't play queen e2. King h7. It's a pretty weird move in general, actually. Like, what's he doing with king h7? Is he going to, like, walk his king up to f5, or what? What exactly is the point of that move? King f2, queen b5, queen c2 check, g6. He guarded the h6 pawn, so he could play h6. Answered my own question. Queen d2, h5, so you've induced weaknesses. And now you're just better. But it's probably still a draw. Maybe he plays knight f8, knight e6. Found it. No, and there is a danger here. You could lose with the bad bishop, quote unquote bad bishop against good knight. But it's also possible for him to get mated with the queen h8. Well, I mean, probably black overpressed. Oh my god. That's it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what planet he's from, like playing a5. I guess he's playing a lot of games. It's a simul, and, he couldn't handle it, but I lose a lot of simul games. But I really don't understand what he's doing with a5. What does a5 do? Put the pawn on the wrong color? He probably wants to play a5, a4, but he's still not achieving anything. He's got to take care with his position, and he's already in trouble with the weakness on the dark squares. Nice. So there's suddenly no way to protect. Except for what? Like knight g7? Does he have h4? Then you just take. What is up, Sadamasa? I guess he can't defend. Knight g7, queen f8, knight f5 check, king h3. That's amazing. You know, good game. He didn't expect such a compact, like, positional play from a player of your rating. That was really very mature game by White. You know, you played like a young Magnus Carlsen. Alright. Young Magnus Carlsen, congratulations. So we've got move 11 I wanted to do. Since this game was from last week as well. Where's my messages? Hate mail. Alright, this is from move 11 from last week, which we didn't get to. Stonkfish versus move 11. I thought we've seen a game from Stonkfish already. Somewhere I've seen Stonkfish. This player, maybe it was against you? Did you play the same player before? Great game by Bijak. Yeah, you can join the Schieberspieler Club after that game. You make me look like Mikhail Tal. C4, e6, knight c3, bishop e4, bishop g5, and now h6. Okay, so black's playing the good old Rogozin variation of the Queen's Gambit. Yeah. Yeah, there's a funny thing about this opening. What's odd is maybe computers have changed opening theory a lot, but back in the 80s and early 90s when I first started playing, like, nobody played this. It was like under a rock somewhere. I mean, I can remember maybe one game I faced it when I was a beginner, but it wasn't something you would see like grandmasters playing. And then I guess like 15 years ago, around the early 2005, early 2000s, all of a sudden like everyone started playing it. I think Aronian a lot. Well, now you need to know a lot of theory to play this opening. Ironically. It was around 2005. Mamedyarov was a specialist with it. Aronian. Both those guys, of course, really came into their own around that time. Mama and Levon. But now, like, Carlsen plays it a lot. And so you've got an opening that's popular with tons of the top players. It's basically like, it's a weird Nimzo. You're playing d5. So what's weird about the Rogozin is like, generally speaking, when you play the Nimzo, you don't really want to put your pawns on the opposite color of your bishop. Or the Winnower French. We don't want to really trade off our bishop necessarily, because we have dark square weaknesses. So there's a lot of cases where this bishop actually comes back to e7, even f8. Black isn't committed to exchanging, and it can still transpose to tons of other variations. So it can play like e3, and it'll be like a mainline Nimzo after something with c5. So, I mean, CD is one of the main moves. The other one is bishop g5, I guess. But as I said, I mean, e3 is a safe option. Oh, I also play queen a4. This was recommended to me originally by Hungarian trainer Károly Tibor. And it is one of the most simple, easy ways to play. I mean, white misplaces the queen on a4, but after that, knight c6. Now black has a misplaced piece too. So it's like, whose mistake is worse? You know, the badly placed knight on c6 or the offside queen on a4? I've had okay results with queen a4, but it's also not that bad for black either. The results are more or less all right. So we see bishop g5. This is a sharp response that can transpose to other variations. Now h6. I'm not really well versed at looking at this position actually from either side with bishop g5, but particularly from black's side. Is d takes c4 a move here? The opening explorer on lichess is broken momentarily, so we don't have that at our disposal today. We're on our own. This should transpose like Vienna variation territory, right? Like takes e4, c5. Very sharp lines. I played this with white with limited results. Okay. So move 11 instead plays h6. And this is another classic position. I actually did play this once for white, like 20 years ago, upon the recommendation of John Fedorovich. I did like bishop takes f6, queen f6, cd5, e5, and queen b3. But black has lots of defenses. Here, actually, queen d6, queen b6. There's all sorts of moves. Like in the semi-Slav Moscow variation, I think bishop f6 is safer than playing bishop h4. This is very dangerous for both sides. I mean, the position is very sharp after bishop h4. So you go g5, bishop g3, knight e4, and now... I mean, I don't know. I thought I remembered there being some kind of Magnus Carlsen games. Didn't Magnus play this at some point and lose a game with black in some recent history? I mean, black's not developing any new pieces here with knight e4. This is theory, however. Rook c1 doesn't look that great. It's probably a move. So for me, this is very strange. Why will black give up his bishop on c3 unprovoked after queen c2? Exactly. I mean, there's no reason to take. Flexibility is key. Why would we want to reduce our options by taking on c3? This is not my kind of position, you know. I don't play this line. I don't play really a lot of variations. I do play the Nimzo. I don't play a lot of positions similar to this, but I do play one line in the Nimzo. If my pawn was back here and I play b6, I do play that way. Just a much different position where the center is not committed to d5. I like b6 better than d5 here. So what are you supposed to do? I don't know, like knight c6 or something? Isn't that probably normal? Like putting pressure on the center and threatening maybe like g4? That looks like the right idea. Then white plays e3, protecting his pawn on d4. And now, I don't know what we do. Don't ask me. I'm not a fan of this of this variation, actually. Maybe it's c5. My personal preference would probably not to be even play g5, but I know this is a9. Here, here, here. Can you play h5 and go for it? By the way, by the by, I thought I saw a game where Van Bailey played like something like this with white against somebody. I mean, isn't it like h5, h4, knight takes g3, f takes g? I thought this was a variation. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. And then there was something with like queen d6 attacking this. If I remember correctly. Like, I don't know exactly which position, but something with queen d6, king f2. Along those lines. But I mean, I'm just speculating. I'm not sure. For me, this is a very strange move. So you just exchange your extra bishop off. You take here. And I played this position, but again, with my pawn back here, and maybe I have... I mean, I've had similar positions with maybe b6, bishop b7, and f5 or something, but this is different. I don't know about black's position. At the end of the day, I mean, you have all your pieces on the back row. You've done nothing but really like weaken your king side with g5. It looks very sketchy. We've got no development, you know? I mean, it's not easy for white either. Like, where's he going to put his king? He'll probably have to castle king side. You know, I've seen people castle queen side. It's not that crazy, but wow. We were talking about e4 earlier. Maybe white is a genius. I don't know. I was expecting a nice, humble sort of e3. And white is slightly better. But he just like goes berserk. But it's principled. That is a principled move. Black's development is pretty lagged, and you're trying to open up the center. And I think that queen takes is better for white. So we're in a bit of a problem here. I mean, is g4 going to be possible? You play queen e7. Relying on tactical ideas. I am not happy with black's development. This looks bad. What about g4? I'd love to exchange pieces, something like 95. Then black is probably almost okay. Another thing is the possibility of bringing the queen out to g5. Strikes me as interesting. It's also possible that my pawn becomes a weakness. Let's turn on the oracle. Oracle is a genius. The oracle found g4. Yeah, I mean, it's weird, but I like the way this drives his knight away from controlling the center. We have to be very careful about it. So I suggested the best move, and move 11 played the second best move, according to the oracle. Queen e7 keeping his powder dry, with tactics along the file here, discouraging an exchange. Move 11, you should think about playing the French. Probably. Have a long conversation with Jesse Cry about the virtues of the French defense. Because it looks like you're playing the French defense. It's some kind of convoluted McCutcheon or something. Queen e7. Okay, cd5, ed5, e5. And I'm not really thinking that f6 is going to cut it here. But move 11 blockades. Yeah, this is definitely best. He's going to have pressure here. If a4, maybe we can play a5. and pray that everything holds together. And you can blockade with like bishop e6. Nobody likes the French. I expected a4. Let's see what the oracle says about that. Clear advantage to white, a5 is the best move. Yep, I mean this is like, I'm praying that I can hang on. And I know that I'm worse. But bishop d3, not as good, maybe. He's still probably clearly better. What's our plan? You played bishop e6. Blockading. It's also possible to play more aggressively with bishop g4. I don't know what it does. White's better. Now he plays a4. And we have c5 if you really want to get crazy. So I think a prophylactic-minded player would play a5 here. Not giving white any more space than he already owns. But move 11 decides to roll the dice with c5. a5, more space. Knight d7. Now our knight is bad. What are we going to do? Like recirculate it back to b8 and c6? It's going to take forever. Meanwhile, our king is still in the center, as is white's. We can probably walk the king over to g7. And although I hope that white doesn't have like an avalanche pawn advance with that 4f5, in which case it's over. I mean, objectively, white is clearly better still. And then this move is just kind of weird. White decided he was into simplifying. But I mean, I think your knight sucks, and I don't really see bishop e5 being a necessarily logical move. Actually, both black pieces are bad. The knight on d7 and the bishop on e6. White's bishop d3 is an excellent piece. He's afraid of c4 or what? Like, I mean, if c4 you can go here, or just retreat it back to e2. If you look at this like a French, you know, this seems like kind of a wimpy move. Trading pieces. And now move 11 shocked everybody by castling queenside. I don't like move 11 in a match against like Boris Spassky or maybe who else? Who else would smash move 11 here? Spassky 1, move 11 0. Castle queenside. We need a player who plays both d4 and e4 to really smash move 11 properly. Spassky fits the bill. Oh man, castle's queenside. That's almost like insane. It's almost insane. There's no way I'm playing castle's queenside. 100% I'm playing king f8 here. I'm playing king f8 and I'm going to put my king in g7 and pray to whatever supreme being exists that maybe I won't lose this game. We don't have to play king g7. We'll see what happens. But I feel like my king is safer on f8 than castling queenside. We'll see. No, the truth is he doesn't have a rook yet over here. Castles make sense. And now move 11 unleashes the horde. White plays a great move though. Look at that. c4. How are you doing there? Oh my god. Dude. King b8. Definitely an improvement. By all rights, white has to be better here. Oh, it's only 3.6. 3.9. Move 11 specializes in winning positions like this. I guarantee a time edge at this point against Stonkfish. But that's shocking. I wasn't expecting to be like plus 3.9. I mean, yeah, I thought white was better, but like plus 3.9. Ouch. So it's just like winning a pawn, clear, bishop takes. How does this work? Bishop takes d7, rook d7, d takes c5. You know, I'm not sure that this is the best. This is logical too. I mean, okay, like you have to sacrifice a pawn. I could see if the computer said like white was better by 2.0 or something, but to be like better by 4, really? Every evaluation from Stockfish, you have to cut in half to be realistic. If you're analyzing, let's just cut it down to 1.9 or something like that. That's a realistic evaluation. No, something like this, some kind of tactical endgame. It's probably claiming this is like plus 2. Nevertheless, I mean, it's not that easy for white to win, and definitely not like an obvious direct attack win. He plays this. I'm suspicious of d takes c5. And this is just hanging now. Mulevan has all or nothing in his sights. h4, take. Nice French. Pawn takes pawn. And white has no sense of danger whatsoever. So where's the tactic? Queen d4? Queen b4? Queen d4? Move 11 plays for the... He's been doing... Speaking of puzzles, Move 11, what's your puzzle rating? Oh, there's rook a4. Oh my god. No. I wanted to do this too. That's your move. It's so tempting to play for the cheapo. So I guess objectively you should just double your rooks on the file, huh? You're supposed to play like rook h4, I'm gonna guess. Just do rook h4, and if he tries... Maybe h4 is actually a bad square. Somewhere else, like h6 or something. Then he has like queen e3, whatever. Yeah. You're coming here next. That looks like a good variation. How does that grab you? Rook h6. How does he defend after rook h6? Anybody? That's got to be game over, right? Move 11 was tempted by the fancy rook h1 threat and overlooked that white has the defense rook a4. And he just like, white just had no clue. Move 11 has been doing his tactics puzzles. So-called puzzles. Where you pretend to be a computer. Alright, man. That opening was a disaster. But it's done now. But seriously, did we get the puzzle right? After cd5, rook h6? Oh no. I would have got it wrong. I don't understand why rook h4 is a good move, though, because doesn't white have rook a4 there? Why is rook h4 such a good idea? I get it that I missed rook h2, but why not rook h4, rook a4? Yeah, that's stupid. Why does it matter anyway? Like, after rook h6, he has an extra move? He's gonna sack his queen for the rook in this line. That's why it's inaccurate. But if you play rook h2, he plays like queen h5 or queen g4. There's less defenses. That's the point. A win is a win. Not according to lichess puzzle bot. Alright guys, good game, sort of. Bad opening. Alright, so we got Bjork, move 11. Higuera is the next game. I want to thank Anonymous for gifting a sub earlier. Acerbate with 100 bits with a Shamrock 100. We are up to Higuera. Today, guys, we're doing analysis of subscriber games. I've got Higuera, Yabadis, Sadamasa, Acer, Princess, move 11's done, and Kakatiri. Alright, let me cross you out. Move 11 was moved up in the list. Mr. Coffee, thanks for being here. Yeah, the puzzle bot is just crap, man. It's not puzzles. They're just positions. Can you play like a computer? I'm totally disgusted by it. And half the time, like, it doesn't even like defend the best, human-like variation. It never plays like the defensive move that really would have been the best practical try. It just mathematically goes to the best line. Not like the old days. Alright. I'm getting myself together here. Higuera. Where's my... Thanks everybody for watching, by the way. Alright, Higuera. Sorry, I'm a little slow with the I key. We have no I key temporarily on my laptop. Not so temporarily. Where was his submission? That's weird. Oh, there it is. It's hiding. Scroll and roll. Scroll on a roll. Hey, Sladgie, hope all is well. I'd like to submit a game for the Thursday analysis. I played white. Thanks again for the streams. You're welcome. I think they're beyond approach. Alright. Computer-created puzzles are not cool. Hey, Sladgie, hope all is well. We're ready to go. Alright. This is Higuera playing white. Looks like a devastating win. Played in 3+0 chess. This is a very fast time control. What? Wow. Higuera 8-9. This is played in very fast chess. 3-0 against the 1508. So a player around the same rating in that time control. E4 and F4. King's Gambit. Thanks, Move 11. Thanks, Acerbate. What's up, man? I don't even know when St. Patrick's Day is anymore. I just like given up. I just think about teaching chess, and I'm just gonna like just try to stay alive until the pandemic is over. I used to live in Boston. It was a big deal. But now, like, there's no more holidays. I don't even think about the real world anymore. F4, Knight c6. So, yeah, I mean, this is just another way to play the King's Gambit declined, I guess. Most commonly, black plays bishop c5. That's the classic King's Gambit decline. There are some interesting independent lines here. Guys, did we briefly look over this? No, that loses immediately. What was I thinking of? Knight f3, I guess? I'm trying to think, what was it that we saw some crazy variation? Oh, okay, knight f3, bishop c5. F takes e5. Knight takes e5. Wasn't this a thing? I'm not sure there's any games where this has really been played. It's kind of crazed, man. Knight takes e5, queen h4 check, g3, queen takes e4 check, queen e2, queen takes h1, knight g6 check, and now what? I don't know who would want to play this, you know, for either side in the right mind. But Sockfish13 is having some fun with this. See, this position doesn't happen with the normal King's Gambit decline move order because Jonathan Rowson. Jonathan Spielman. Are we analyzing games? We are analyzing games. Jonathan Spielman. Subscriber games that were submitted to me privately. Not just any games. Not fancy Grandmaster games. But personal primacy. Anyways, if you play the King's Gambit decline, it's like bishop c5, knight f3, and d6. I mean, this is a normal line. This is different. I don't know. I mean, there's not much analysis on knight c6. I was surprised. I played this once against Alex Manea in an IM tournament. It was a last round game, and it was a draw. But I'm surprised how few games there really are in this, is what I'm trying to say. There's also, like, some other variation I was thinking of, which I can't remember. Maybe something with taking on f4, like knight f3, pawn takes f4. Is this what I'm trying to say? I don't know. I can't remember what I'm thinking anymore. Anyway, knight c6 is dubious. Are you sure? Alright, knight f3, and that's the line we got. Oh, maybe I know what I'm thinking now. I was thinking about d5. I'm going to turn off the engine. What happens if d5? Pawn takes, queen takes. I mean, this can't be captured because of queen e4 check. No, it can be captured because queen e4 check gets pinned by queen e2. So that's probably just like better for white. Slight advantage to white. But you need the Magnus Carlsen like endgame technique here. The King's Gambit is essentially a positional opening. Look at that. All of this to get this endgame grind on with bishop takes d6, pawn d6, for example. So, alright, e takes f4, knight f3, and now g5. That's another line. Black played bishop e4 check. Difficult to understand what that move does. Do you understand what this does? Does anybody understand what this does? So the purpose is to take away like knight c3 or something. But it's bad. And that's it. And that's the end of, the opening. Advantage to white. We've succeeded in destroying black's center. The king's gambit is positional opening. We traded our f pawn for your e pawn. And now white has the optimal pawn center. I mean, there are lines in the Scotch and Nimzovich where black plays like bishop e4 check because white really doesn't want to play c3 that much, but in this case, it's just bad. Okay, it doesn't win itself. d6, bishop c4. See, I don't know about bishop c4. Knights before bishops. And I'm a little worried about our central pawn. So it's tough. There's also this pin to concern yourself about. I mean, this looks like a very solid move. You've got the overprotection of e4 possibility. The worst would be like if you blundered your d-pawn with some sort of tactic like bishop d3, bishop g4, knight d2. This is cute, like knight takes d4. I don't think that even works, though. I'm just having brain hemorrhages. All right, never mind. Never mind, that doesn't work. I'm having some strange hallucination. d6, complete success for white, bishop c4, and then, well, I mean, obviously black can play a normal move here, like knight e7 or knight f6. Instead, he played this, which is just committing suicide by d5. Clearly, and it's over. I like the way you took with the bishop now rather than correcting your pawn structure. I mean, also it's possible to take with the queen, threatening mate in 1. It's hard to resist. Bishop takes, knight f6 castles, and you're just up a piece. Nothing to see here, folks. Please move along. Until we blundered our d-pawn? So that's not great, right? We should reinforce that d-pawn first. In an accuracy for sure. And now there's a problem there with that pawn. But he didn't want it. Alright, lots of moves. This is fine. Essentially, this is just an exchange. And you get at least a rook. I'm interested in winning practically here. But you found more. Playing for mate looks pretty feasible here. And the rook. Oh no, what about your other rook? You played the whole game rook odds. I was joking with Asterbait. He had a game he showed me where he played the entire game without moving his A rook. And now you got the same thing. The only reason he didn't play rook f1 because he wants to show the game to all his friends, pretend it was played like with the odds of the queen's rook. Don't believe the hype. He didn't really play it as rook odds. You did move that rook eventually, though, ironically. Isn't this like mate in 2? It's probably like mate in 3 with rook f1. That was a weird move to play, though. Always mate with the lowest form of material. Black resigned, facing mate in 2. Yeah, I mean, you got to try to win this and then pretend you played rook odds, and then people will be really impressed. All right, guys. So a good king's gambit. Now Ubatis is up next. Welcome everybody to the stream. I'm analyzing subscriber games here. We've got, next, Ayubates. Greek philosopher. Something like that. I don't know. Iobates. Iobates. Spectacular camel. 30-0. Can you guys please use your time properly? I'm basically lecturing everybody this week about time management. If you're going to play classical chess with 30-minute time control, you want to try to maximize using all your time. I noticed this trend where people, and I noticed it because I've felt it before myself. I'm going to say this. Don't be ashamed or afraid to have less time than your opponent on the clock. It's like a psychological sort of whammy that I experienced myself. And I think a lot of people have this sort of competitive, ultra competitive, like, I mean, I'm saying from experience. A lot of opponents have this ultra competitive thing where the clock time is like a competition. Like who has more time somehow thinks they're winning, you know? And like experienced players understand this is absurd. But it's easy to sit there and feel like, oh man, this guy's constantly trying to stay ahead of me on the clock. It doesn't matter, it just doesn't matter. Nobody's recording the times at the end of the game and saying, okay, well, you get an extra point because you have more time left. You absolutely should just try to find a way that you use as much of your time as possible, not playing as fast as possible. So anyway, Iobates is white. His opponent is rated 2019. They're about the same. This is classical chess. Yeah, but don't do what I do and get down to just your increments is not what I'm saying. But to manage it properly. So this is unusual. Oh, you're black. I'm sorry. Iobates is black. I almost made a terrible mistake there, assuming he was white. I knew something was up with knight f3. Bowie49, thank you for tuning in and gifting a tier 1 sub to the community. You just went to Blue Eddie 92. Thank you guys for supporting the stream. So knight f3 g6 from Iobates. Taking a break from his usual knight c6, c4, bishop g7, knight c3, and there it is, knight c6. Normally it would be knight c6, g6, bishop g7. He really mixed it up this time. Basically a form of modern defense against the English, and now d4. No longer the English, it's now d4. On the Lark, I played the modern defense against Kozak Adam in my last tournament in October, and miraculously held on against the young Grandmaster for a draw. I think we played this exact line: e4, d6, bishop e3, something like that, and I had never played this variation in my whole life. It was a very risky thing to do, to play the modern variation I had never played. But instead, he plays h3 here. I mean, d6 is normal. You can still transpose to a King's Indian with knight f6. I remember I had a game with the late, great Igor Ivanov, where Igor did something like that with black. He transferred to a King's Indian after starting out with a modern, move order. But h3 is an interesting kind of creative move. Antonio Morales, welcome. Didn't see you here. Cheers. Thanks to Bowie49 for the gift sub. Actually, Bowie49 is showing up in the gift sub category. We had an anonymous gifter for the previous one. Passive drivel, I don't agree. I mean, it's not a critical move. But you got to give white credit for a little bit of creativity there. Taking opponent out of book. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm not going to argue h3 is critical, but these kind of moves can be very effective if the player with black is not a player that's able to think for himself. I mean, dude, I play like bishop g5 against the King's Indian, and I know that it's not that great, you know? My score with this system, which can be called like drivel, is basically way, way better than my score in mainline King's Indians. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best move. It's a question of whether people understand what they're doing. If you play a move like h3, a lot of people just like melt down and turn into idiots, you know? If you take them out of their book, it has a very lasting effect. So do you really understand? Do you understand what you're doing or not? That's what h3 might show. What did I play against Joel Benjamin? What do you mean? I've had like numerous games with Joel. I remember playing him 4 times. Are you referring to a specific game? I told a story where he rolled his eyes. Oh. I don't remember what I said. It was something like, no, he made a comment. Maybe, I don't remember, it was after the game. It was d4, d5, bishop f4, c6, c3. So e5 looks good. e3. h3 is not that stupid. I think it's a good way to get black out of their book. Clearly not critical, but not really bad either. Basically, it's like a French defense against the King's Indian attack or something. Maybe even g4 later. Bishop d7 is a weird move. That's a patent of Yabatis. He's obsessed with putting his bishop on d7 for some reason. Though there are not a lot of places to place it here. These other squares are not available. I guess bishop d7 is okay. You know, someone suggested like f5. I agree. This seems more thematic. I agree. I mean, f5 is definitely the most aggressive for black here. Supporting the whole pawn chain. We can get the knight behind. The problem is, who cares? Maybe there's no problem. If you really want to play for a win, I mean, you might have to play like knight takes e5 and avoid exchanging queens. So, I agree, Sadamasa, f5 is probably best, or most aggressive. Bishop d7, bishop e2, now knight h6. An interesting move, keeping the f-pawn unobstructed. Now white castled. And this also gives us the ability to put pressure on the d4 point. You can exchange on d4 and play knight f5. I mean, probably white should push. We haven't even like discussed this. At some point, white has to call this and play d5. He's like, all right, I've had enough. I'm going to play d5. I would think this is the moment for white to play d5. Definitely. It's enough. I've seen enough. I've seen some really creative games like h3. That's why I don't mind h3. I've seen some interesting games played by grandmasters and strong players. I mean, they might even bust like the g4 on you or something like that. Try to play something creative. Maybe white doesn't castle, but leaves his king in the center. Plays something like queen c2. There are interesting ways to play the position, but it does look like d5 should be the main idea, and probably like eventually e4, and we'll transfer to. Again, this idea stays in the position though, the g4. Well, I mean, we haven't gotten that far, Kakatiri. It looks to me like a position. I don't know if it's good or not. Let's say here, is it good for black? We have to watch out for knight g5. I mean, it's very dangerous. I don't like the look of that. And white, exactly, black can't play h6 to prevent knight g5. So this looks like a problem to me. Knight g5 in here. Yeah, you're going to have to do something slow. But I mean, okay, there. Then we get this kind of thing, and white is basically playing Makhaghanov King's Indian. A good Makhaghanov King's Indian of sorts. Yeah, black can play knight f7, maybe even like bishop h6 if allowed. And it's a game, I don't know. White's flexible though. White can castle either side or leave his king in the center. Alright, so that's probably critical. Instead, okay, he did play d5 eventually. After white castled though. I mean, for me that's kind of like committal. White castled kingside and then played d5. It's a little different. Now black has more attacking chances on the king side, but this is still a threat. So he just allowed it. Yeah, it looks like a mistake, man. I mean, what are you going to do after knight g5? There is a big problem on e6. Classic. And usually Yabata spots that, but I mean here, this is protected. There's nothing you can do, no tricks. This is a problem with your knight h6. White played this instead, which is, well, basically doesn't do anything. I mean, what does that do? You're not going to trade it, are you? Maybe you can trade it off. But it's not as good as knight g5. Yeah. I mean, maybe actually he should consider doing this at this point. I don't know. No, I don't like the black kingside attack. Yeah, this looks stupid for white. So now he's like full reverse, and now his king is over here. Why is his king on g1? And he's walking right into a kingside attack. He doesn't have the advanced queenside play like in a Mar del Plata King's Indian. He's going to have to be very careful. f4, maybe he can blockade with like knight h2. Black doesn't have as great coordination as a normal King's Indian either. So instead you played h6. The white knight has nowhere good to go. I just want to make the comment that like normally you don't play the Makhaghanov King's Indian with h3 and just routinely castle kingside all the time. Knight h2. Interesting move though. He might be able to take on f5 and play f4. There's the white squares. Yeah, but I mean f4 is wrong now because of bishop g4. I don't know. I'm concerned about bishop g4. Maybe it's not a big deal, but traditionally that takes out most of black's attacking chances. h5, bishop d7, queen d7, but you don't have that bishop to sack on h3 anymore. So I imagine like f3, and now we run like the wind over to the other side. No problem. I don't know, what do you want to play here? g5? Forget about it. There's no g5, g4. Maybe bishop f6. King f2. Check. King e2, and then bishop g3. Trapping the white knight on h2. Rook h1. And I would honestly probably give that up or think about giving it up for the knight. It's a position. Anyway, f4 is committal. Wow. I mean, it's an inspired move, but I mean, I don't see white having much control of the e5 square. Now I was wondering about g5. This is a surprising move from Yabatis now, c5. What happens if you play g5? Where does he go? I mean, bishop e3 is like another tempo with f4, but maybe it's good. Maybe if you play f4, like the h-pawn just falls. So white could play like this, and then there's like no way to defend that. It's possible that white like grabs a pawn, and it's just bad. Or this is ridiculous. h4. Are you gonna seriously do h4? It's pretty ugly. I mean, perhaps black isn't in big trouble. So he decided to do that. I mean, what about taking here? Since you can't take back with the pawn, this is just a loss of a pawn. Black would probably take with like the knight, and now white has control of the e4 square. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm not sure about f4. I don't like c5. But at the same time, maybe it's not such a bad move. It weakens the d6 square. And now I want to develop my remaining pieces. Queen e7, rook a e8. But he goes here. I mean, for me, that's a bit odd. The rook is already developed where it stands, believe it or not. I want to get the other rook over to the position. So queen e7 looks great. We've got control of e3 and the other rook coming with reinforced, enhanced control of e3. I think this is good. Oh, your Kuka game. Rook e8. Knight f3, rook e8. Getting off the active f file. Undeveloping. No, you know what it is? It's a new term I've invented. What is rook f8? It's not undeveloping, it's redeveloping. Yabatis is redeveloping his already developed piece with rook e8. Redevelopment. Instead of new development, you're a redeveloper. You're taking already developed property and redeveloping it. Here, queen d2, knight e5. Knight g5. Hello. You've got a square too. And that's a lot of pieces. I'm getting a headache. Actually, I don't know. Man, I don't know. This is getting complicated. There's the e6 square. You've got to keep d6 protected. I wish you had brought your other rook over to f8. I'd like your game a lot more. Everybody leaves their queen rook out. What's going on with that? Another player with queen rook odds. Knight e4, bishop h6. This is creeping me out. Of course, b3. White doesn't mind trading that bishop off on e2, his bad b. And my god, man. Knight f7. Are you going to just chill with your king on f7 here? That's nuts, dude. After knight f7, bishop f4. Are you sure about this? Anyway, we're not going to take it too seriously. This is your bodice. Bishop d3, knight takes g5, knight takes g5, bishop takes d3, rook takes e8 check, takes, knight e6. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We all expected him to play queen takes d3, but he saw a problem with, like, check, and then knight takes f4 and drops a piece. It seems like he realized too late, after knight takes g5, bishop takes, that he's dropping something. You also have the option to play knight takes e6, no? That looks like it's good as well. Probably also winning for black. Simple material greed. Bishop takes c4. It's a matter of taste. We drop the exchange for nothing. And it's over. Alright. Yeah, there's a lot to be discussed there. It's a complex position. I don't think either side played as well as they could. Alright, thanks for sharing, though. Now, Sadamasa. You've got a game for us. There was a lot of tension at one point. But Sadamasa usually got a pretty serious game for us. Ernesto, 1972. What a year. $21.07, 21.03 against Sadamasa, so two pretty highly ranked players. Sadamasa plays normally. What happened here? You're playing the Queen's Gambit? What? We usually see the King's Indian Grunfeld from Sadamasa, but he's playing the Queen's Gambit declined. Huh. Cheers, Yabatis. Thanks for the game. Everybody needs a solid defense, right? I play the Nimzo as well as the King's Indian. Queen's Gambit I've tried. Never really worked well. You try what works for you, you know. Doesn't necessarily work for other people. I never had good results with the Caro Kann. The Queen's Gambit declined. I've always done better with more dynamic openings. I feel like the Nimzo is better because it's more flexible than the Queen's Gambit declined. I like having flexibility. c4, e6, knight c3, bishop e7. And now, very popular in this move order is like 5 bishop f4. I mostly play bishop g5 myself, but it's very hard for white to get an advantage in anything mainline these days. This especially. So you can choose from many different variations. It looks like you played the Schieberspieler defense. h6, bishop h4, castles, e3, and then knight e4, the Lasker. Actually, the Lasker. It was invented long before Schieberspieler was born. Limited winning chances in this line, but I guess that's the case in the Queen's Gambit in general. In the Queen's Gambit declined. Limited choice chances of winning in black openings. Alright, anyway. So I experimented with this move a couple times with white with no results. You pretty much have to play bishop takes e7. Queen e7. And now there's like different moves. cd5 is the main line. There's also rook c1. Those are the two that I've played. I guess queen c2 is also a move. That's about it. Like, this isn't good. The knight is forced from its position on f3. So there was a book I remember. I think it was Chernev, or I had an opening repertoire book when I was a kid that had the Lasker in it. Some kind of old classic book, I remember. It is an easy variation to learn. And it's very solid. But bishop d3, okay, so we've got a take. Never want to do something like f5. This would be a very bad Stonewall Dutch, where we don't have our good bishop, and our bishop is blocked in. You don't, I mean, you want to keep control of e4, but unfortunately, there's really no option here. We have to take. And I'm out of my depth here. I've probably played this position once or twice in my life with white, never really with black. Once I played a weird Lasker where I didn't play h6, but I basically never really did it. So I guess you can play different ways in this position. I mean, one way to play would be to play c5. That way, you're attacking the center and you're going to bring your knight in behind your c-pawn. Obviously, the way he played it is like maybe safest in terms of pawn structure. We play pawn takes pawn, maybe bring the rook, play c5, b6, bishop b7. And I've seen like occasionally people play like this, but this looks very, very passive. But perhaps not that bad. D takes c4, bishop takes c4. So here you played c6. Honestly, I don't really understand why you would take on c4 and then play c6. Or for that matter, I don't really understand playing c6 at all. I mean, white seems like theoretically better here. What omnatism talked about is relevant. I mean, there may be positions where you want to play b6, bishop b7, and just put the bishop on the long diagonal. I don't want to play bishop a6. I think bishop b7 will be fine. There's no reason to be fancy here. It's theoretically possible, but white also has, I mean, black also has weaknesses, like this square in particular. Go like bishop a6, could run into knight e5 and knight c6 or anything like that. I mean, it seems like fine to play just like b6, bishop b7, knight d7. That's what like our friend Schieberspieler would do. Very straightforward setup. b6, castles, bishop b7. Maybe white can try like a4, a5. But if he does it too early, you can hit him with knight c6. And then maybe try something like knight a5 and c5. Depending on what he does. And there's other ways, like c5 right away. This is a move with the idea of rook d8. So there are different ways to interpret the position for black. But I don't like this. This is passive. We're putting all our pawns in the white squares. It's unnecessary. What are we afraid of? Like, he's not going to play d5. A4. Okay. Not a bad move, maybe, by white. But a little time consuming. And now you play d5. But again, I don't see what c6 had to do with it. You know, you don't need c6 for any reason here. I guess I don't mind e5. But I'd rather play for c5. Now you've already moved your c-pawn. And then b6. But again, I wish this pawn, was back there and now like bishop b7 would be an open diagonal. The only move I have a problem with is c6. e4, I don't know about white's play, it looks pretty natural. And then a5. Yeah, I mean, he's pushing probably a little too hard here. But I guess a5's not a bad idea. He's threatening to play a6. If you have to take, You're not happy. It's not a great structure for black. This is probably a good move, even if the computer says it's dubious. Inaccuracy, h3 was best. Okay, h3 is a move, but is it inaccurate? Why? What's wrong with a5? I mean, I don't really like a6. I'm going to guess that white overextended himself, judging by the way this is going. And now this move, which I cringe. d5 makes me cringe a little bit. I'm not even sure if I would play a6 or not. I would need a lot of time to decide whether to play this. But it was a fast game, right? 3 plus 2. Yeah, I mean, you need a lot of time to play this kind of position properly. This is a subtle position. White has a tiny advantage. Generally keep the tension dongers. When you have the advantage, especially, black doesn't want to take and have broken pawns. It's hanging in the air, the whole thing. I agree, and that's usually the rule. I mean, it's hard to believe that white isn't better here. But exactly, like, why not keep the tension? It's possible there was some line where there would be a tactic, but I don't see it. I mean, honestly, here, Sadamasa, I would be hard-pressed not to play pawn takes pawn. Because I'm terrified of a6. But pawn takes pawn, rook takes, and he's crashing down on this. Then you take here. In fact, this might be a good move, with the idea of knight f5. I was concerned about this, this, and this, but white has defenses like rook a4. So it's not so easy. I would be very terrified to allow a6. The oracle says it wants to play b5 and a6 for white. How bad is this? Really bad. And the computer just does a simple recapture, allowing queen b4 and rook a4. So +2 for white, which in the real world means like +1. Alright, that's understandable. So now you play bishop e7, a5, rook d8, a6. I'm not liking how this is going. And then d5, which was kind of weird for me. This looks like, well, he just like blockaded the position. Now you play knight f6 and you're fine. You play knight c5, but knight f6 actually looks even safer than the knight c5, maybe. The bishop is developed on c8. It's back in the game. Now we have threats of like bishop g4. White's queenside was shut down. You went to c5. I mean, now you played b5. I wouldn't even consider that move. I think you should just like get your bishop out. But Sadamata was concerned about winning a pawn, thinking materialistically. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is like kind of tangled up, but pawn is a pawn. That's what they told me. And you just like emerge with 2 connected passed pawns over here versus central protected. 2 is better than 1. This is a fast game, though. I mean, honestly, like, analyzing this 3+2 game is pretty hard to expect quality. It's very hard to play quality chess in anything like faster than a rapid game. And that's it, man. I mean, once those 2 connected passed pawns can just roll, his last hope is to somehow like keep them, separated here. Blockade is the word, right? Queen b4. We have to blockade. This is very important, not to allow black to have connected pawns like abreast on a5 and b5 when they become stronger and stronger. And plus, white has this powerful pawn here. He's starting knight takes e5. He's still in the game. But I mean, to just play rook e2 and allow this, yeah. Now it's hard pressed for white. White's hard pressed to have enough counterplay. That's a good try, though. Still very scary. Black has to be careful. I would have played queen d7. White already has threats of rook e3, or maybe even rook a3 and over here. Good line. Okay, anyway. I mean, this is like blitz chess where both sides have seconds left. It's sort of silly at that point. You know, I think we saw the opening. This was a good... Actually, white's winning with knight d3 check. So f4 just loses. Yeah, it's over. You missed winning the queen. Pretty obviously there. That was bad. Doing things the hard way. It was like the time that I was up a rook against Alexander Onishuk in time pressure, and I dropped a whole rook and had to beat him with like a pawn up and a queen endgame instead of a rook up. It's called doing things the hard way. And now it's a draw. All right. Next game. Yeah, I mean, the time control is kind of fast. Astrobate is up. What's up, man? Thanks, guys, for joining my stream. We're going to be back tomorrow morning at 11. 11 CET with blitz chess here. Open challenges. Dongers, you can submit a game by sending me a message. It has to be, you know, like a game I can play through here on lichess. We'll see how tired I am. I don't know if we can do one more. Maybe too late. We'll see if I fall asleep by then. All right. But I want to say something. Dongers is maybe questionable. A late submission. Oh, I want to say something about the stream going forward. Listen, guys. Check out the YouTube channel and of course the Discord, but that's not what I want to say. What I want to say was, next week, keep in mind, if you're in North America, daylight savings time is starting on Sunday. Starting with my, not even next week, but Sunday stream. I am in Central European time. We do not have daylight savings time for 2 more weeks. So if you're planning to play on my simul on Sunday, I just had a message from Silly China. I don't know who gets first, like Silly China or Dongers. Maybe neither. Oh, you are Silly China. Alright, I was confused. I forgot you're Silly China. That was coincidence. Silly China or Dongers. So, Sunday is daylight savings time for the America and North America. That means that my stream will remain at its normal time, and you're going to be moving forward an hour. So anyone who wants to participate in the stream has to keep that in mind. For 2 weeks, we'll be 5 hours difference between Eastern time in USA and Central European time rather than normal 6. The difference will shrink by 1 hour. Princess Chess. Don't forget. Thank goodness for good old daylight savings time. So simul this week, yeah, I mean, it would be essentially 1 hour. Now you confuse me, Move 11. Yeah, 1:30. An hour later, spring forward. All right, guys, we're fading fast. It's been a long day. Astrobate, always entertaining. Let's check out what he's got for us. A great game. A great game for this week. All right, Astrobate. If not, may I present to you one that I feel was my best of the week. All right, Astrobate's best game of the week. Sponsored by... 15 CPL from Astrobate with the white bits. All right, I don't know how we're going to analyze an Astrobate game without the Opening Explorer. How will we ever get through the opening theory without the Opening Explorer turned on? A dog ate their Opening Explorer at lichess, so they had to shut it down. Alright, what's up, man? Astrobate playing white. E4. E5. Knight f3. G fuel. Knight c6. Bishop c4. Bishop c5. c3. Knight f6. And now d3. Quiet and correct. Castles. Castle. d6. I personally prefer a6. d6, b4. This is Astrobate's preferred variation, not mine. I don't really understand, like, I don't know. I don't really understand, like, this whole just randomly moving our queenside pawns forward thing. But there's some traps and some ideas. I think I like the more traditional approach. Now, a6 or a5. I guess a6 is probably considered to be the main move. I'm guessing, with Opening Explorer turned off. a5 allows b5, which allows the knight to be kicked away. It seems like a little more of a concession. b5, knight b8. I mean, b4 is unusual, Dongers. It's played. But, I mean, my problem with it is just feels like we're making a lot of pawn moves and not developing the pieces. It's not that fundamental. It's definitely not something I would recommend to a beginner to play. Astrobate, though, has been playing this for so long that he kind of knows the ins and outs of it. My argument is this, like, if by any accident black plays like d5, if he's able to crack open the game, my explanation for how this can turn out badly for white is, should d5 happen, black opens the game. Like, this shelf here, this, whatever you call it, you know, can fall apart. That sea life shelf or whatever it is. It's like some sort of, what do you call it, ecosystem. I don't know. I can't find the word I'm looking for. Anyway, these shelves can break and then everything falls apart. If black were able to open the position with d5, we'd have like terrible weak pawns and like backwardness. For white, I've seen it happen before. If white plays stupidly. So b5 97, normal. This is not as good, probably. Now bishop g5. I mean, Dongers is right about one thing. d4 is the main line in the Joko. But I mean, I think the point of the d3 Joko is that you play d4 later. You're ready to play d4 when black is not prepared for it. That's the secret to getting an advantage with the system. You sort of sneak up on black and you play d4 at a date when, you know, they're not ready. But bishop g5, I don't know. It doesn't look that big a deal. I guess we're getting developed, though. It's a little like playing the advanced Caro-Kann. Like you start out behind the development, and now you're actually catching up. Knight on bd7, knight d2, h6, bishop h4. Asterbate had a terrible game against me a while back where he like played bishop takes f6 in a similar position. I can't stress enough how bad that is. G5, and now you have the prison bishop, but the weakness is somewhat significant, particularly if white was able to play d4. Again, my problem is that this bishop on g3 is very hard to resuscitate. It's pretty dead where it stands now. So getting that piece back in the game, not easy. Maybe d4 somehow. Getting black to go up to center, trading it off, and the bishop comes back to life on this diagonal. I mean, knight g5 in general gets serious thought, but I think that's like more commonly when it's not like backed up by another knight on d7. This is a pretty strange situation. But you're right, like even here you could probably give this serious thought. Morphy famously used this sort of strategy with black sometimes. You like come behind with the rook and then you just like clear out. Usually this type of piece sacrifice doesn't work. I mean, there are some examples where it does. Obviously f4 isn't possible. Our king will get, in check. We can't build that without playing king h1 first, so it takes a while. And stuff like queen f3 is kind of slow. It's tricky. I mean, we can run the oracle on it. I don't think knight g5 will work, but you never know. Yeah, so it's on the fence. It's actually a move. It seems like white has just about enough compensation almost. But I would not be confident. It would definitely be like, I don't think so. I'm surprised though, according to Stockfish 13, there's just about enough compensation there. That's not really enough to sack the piece though. This looks like the right move. Just be aware that your bishop is like condemned to imprisonment for life on g3. Knight h5. Possible tactics with knight e5, knight g3, knight d7, knight f1, knight f8. Knight d2, or even knight b6. This doesn't look good enough. Our knight is trapped, and white will be down a piece. So, Asterbate went with d4, trying to resuscitate his bishop on g3. The other thing is the white squares, though. I mean, the normal move in this type of position is probably rook e1, with the plan of, like, the standard plan of knight f1, knight e3, knight f5, stuff like that. Man, the computer thinks knight e5 works. What did I miss? I must have missed something. Wow. Knight takes f7. Holy cow. Wow. I mean, I'm not sure about this. It really doesn't look that clear. I guess d4 will kill the bishop on b6 though. Eventually. It's like your classic two pieces, for rook and two pawns. Essentially. But that's hard to judge. It's very hard to judge if this is really a lot better for white or not. I also wouldn't have been confident enough. How is rook e1? Just the standard plan. The engine doesn't like it though. It doesn't like this pressure on f2. Now you're threatening g4. And there's no time for knight f1. Damn. So it's not easy to find the right plan for white. Bishop a2 with the idea of knight c4 and knight e3. That's cool. So it's an alternate way, which I've seen before, but not recently. The alternate way to get to e3 and get to those weak squares for Asterbate. Pull the bishop away, play for knight c4, knight f1, and leave your rook on f1, guarding f2. It's always hard to judge rook, rook for 2 pieces, of course. So Asterbate played d4. This is probably okay, except for the fact that g4 might undermine the center. But I don't imagine that's great. You could have a crazy variation. g4, knight h4. Knight g3. hg. Pawn takes pawn, for example. Queen takes check. Queen g5. Nobody knows what's going on. Also very unclear. Yeah, I don't know about knight takes g3. Alright, let's see. F takes. Asterbate F takes? Say what? Wow. F takes. I never imagined. He did F takes. Opening up the bishop on the diagonal. Only about you. Everyone in the room saw F takes g3 except you. I mean, it has to be better to take the other way, right? No sane person would play F takes G in this position. So he just does it. It's just about his pieces. He doesn't care about the other guy. That's one bishop, who cares? What's one bishop going to do to me? It's about my pieces. So black should have played g4 and undermined, well, I mean, it's kind of critical, right? Rather critical is the d4 pawn. Instead he plays takes. You can take with a knight. Alright, I mean, it's still black has some hope here. But I mean, this is the critical question. g4, undermining the d4 pawn. Now, we have to go here. And in addition to taking this pawn, I mean, black might have other options. But I admit Asterbate has some interesting attacking chances. This, knight g6, rook f1, the g4. So he gambled, everything on f takes g, and black played e takes d4. And now knight takes. Black is obviously counting on pawn takes g4, and then he's winning after bishop takes. But he just didn't really count on this. The kind of ugly knight takes e4, leaving this pawn isolated. But look at all white's play with this, this, this. Black has a better pawn structure and a big square for his knight on e5, but is it enough to compensate for all the active pieces? Maybe not. So king g7, queen h5. I don't even think like this is a threat, Maybe we'll even give him that. We'll throw the bishop in with the deal and play like queen h5 here. After this, this. And the problem is, this is kind of funky, but I mean, this may be a problem. What's actually happening here? It's not that easy. The Asterbate maneuver was a big one. It was big with Karl Schlechter too, like rook a2. There's a lot of similarity between Schlechter and Asterbate in many ways. Both almost world champions. Both are geniuses. Both loved open f-file and the rook a2 maneuver. But seriously, I don't know. Alright, you keep the bishop. Keep the bishop. Wow. Astrobate with the ultimate. Add the ultimate prophylactic move to the Astrobate. Damn, dude, that is an insane move. I bet that's like #1 move of the engine. Look at that. That's all of his counterplay is gone after H3. But I mean, that's awesome. He's adapting, you know. Astrobate never used to be able to find a move like that. But now he's like making little prophylactic moves in the middle of his attack. Nice job. Bishop E6. Good try, too. Black's actually not a bad player. Black didn't play that badly. You know? What did he do wrong? It's not like he made some terrible blunder. He missed Bishop G4 previously instead of Queen E7. Okay, so that's his biggest blunder to date, playing Queen E7. He missed Bishop G4. Now Queen H5, King G7. Now what do we do? Knight F5 check? Move the king, right? Yeah, we want to play Knight F5 check. He's turning into Korchnoi. This is, by the way, the best formation ever. You can never get checkmated with that formation. Ever. Like, it's impossible. Man, it's just no way. Petrosian. Astrobate the new Petrosian. Petrosian. That's called Anand's King. That was made way before Anand. I mean, Petrosian used to play the white side of the King's Indian with that F takes G recapture in like the Petrosian variation of the... Right. No, I mean, that's somebody using it in a modern context, dongers, but this has totally been around a long time. Bishop A2, Rook A2. Oh, no. That wasn't what we expected. So Black blundered. Yeah, I mean, he made one mistake with Queen E7 and then a blunder. Clink. It's always the second mistake that gets you. Is there a mate, though? He's got the escape square here. Queen G7, and there's no mate. Oh, no. Wait. Oh, there is a mate. He found it, too. Nice job. Wow. And that's it. He took the time to stop and find it. So, Asri, that definitely goes up there with your evergreen game. It's close. Best game today. Primus is up next. I mean, Princess. Close. If you have room, here's a fun game where I overlooked a mate in one. Alright. Princess Chess, thanks for sharing. Oof. Wow, both sides, no inaccuracies, no mistakes. 2 blunders against 1 blunder. So only blunders or bust. Usually you see Emery mate with 2 bishops in the middle of the board. I only do that for like a large donation. Alright. So this is Princess Chess playing black pieces. E4, E5, Knight C3. I tried to tell her that I liked Knight F6 better. Maybe that was a different position. Yeah, I guess we were talking about the bishop's opening. Against bishop's opening, I like this. Well, I like this against everything. Actually, it's funny because Princess Chess plays the Vienna game with white, probably. What do you like to play against your own opening? I find it hard sometimes to play against my own openings. You would think you would automatically have an advantage, but it's not always an advantage. So, I mean, I guess bishop c5 is some queen g4 stuff. Is that it? You've never played the Vienna game? I mean, I know you're playing the Italian game now, but it seems like because you played the closed Sicilian. Princess Chess, you've never played the Vienna game? With all those knight c3 games against the close, on the white side of the closed Sicilian, I always thought you've played the Vienna game before. I realize you don't play it like now, but for some reason I thought you used to play it at some point. There is this, like if bishop c5, I guess here. That's just last week, practically, Princess Chess. Queen g4. It probably loses the initiative somehow for white. But anyways, we'll play knight f6. d3, bishop c5, f4, d6. This seems passive. Alright, so this is where I'm getting confused already. Why am I getting confused already? Okay. There's no time to play knight a5, right? White can play knight a4. So the main line according to the engine is castles, but white can play f5 and get this sort of kingside stuff with bishop g5. It can be a little scary if you don't know exactly what you're doing, I would imagine. So I can understand not wanting to castle necessarily. But I mean, the problem is we can't play knight a5 either. And this is like crap. Not a good plan. And that's what you did. Yeah. The opening explorer is busted because it got chewed up by their dog. But knight a4, I would assume bishop e6 or something, or do we leave it there? Even queen e7. It's not that bad for black. I kind of hate giving up my white squared bishop for the knight on f3, but I guess you're going to have to. I guess it's a practical way to play for black. That may not be that bad. So white takes pressure off the center. Now, this is also an option to play knight a5. I know Princess Chess doesn't like this move in principle, and I totally understand. I also feel a lot of doubt about moves like knight h4, going after Slav bishops on g6. Is it really worth it? Like spending 2 tempi to hunt down this bishop? I'm not sure. But I mean, more importantly, black wants to get the c-pawn moved up. I mean, that's the main point. To fight for the key square d5, I think. We're talking about strategic goals here. Not necessarily just about getting the white bishop, but supporting control of d5. I would imagine that black could also play knight e7. That's like not well placed. Again, a5 isn't a great square either. I mean, I wouldn't mind getting rid of that white square bishop while I'm at it, though. So knight d4. Well, this is logical. Probably strong. And then, wow. Why, this is a joke. Why he played castles. That's like a misclick move. Knight takes f3 check. King h1, and now what? What's the best move? It looks like a lichess puzzle. This is like seriously. This is a typical lichess example of a lichess puzzle. Black to play and win. Like, are you serious? We're up a piece already, and we have like 10 ways to win in this position. Now we have to like demonstrate the exact variation that Stockfish wants us to play for like 7 moves straight. How do we win the maximum material here? Knight h2. Astrobait would probably play like h5 or something. Seriously, knight h2. Alright. Queen d2. Grab the rook. And now we're playing for mate. Wow. I mean, is knight h5 mate? Seriously? Well, it's like queen g4. He's gonna have to go with queen. Look, knight h4, whatever it is, h5, queen d8 check, rook takes. Now, how do you stop the mate with knight here? The sickest part is like after g3, this is actually mate. I wonder if knight h5 is like really our best move. He has knight e2, so that kind of delays it. You can play like knight e2 guarding g3 or something. Princess Chess has said knight g3 check, king up, knight h5. Not quite understanding what it does. You're just like holding on to your knight. But I like this a lot. Is knight h5 the best move? It's close. Knight g3 check is plus 21.3, and knight h5 is plus 21.2, so it would definitely get flagged by the lichess tactic puzzle bot. This is not good enough, Sladgie. I'm sorry. Queen takes, rook takes, and white has knight e2, refuting your combination, or bishop f4. Petrosian, sorry for mispronouncing your name earlier, but I'm American. I'm American. I know how to pronounce it correctly, but it's faster to say it the wrong way. Knight g3 check. King h2. Knight gh5. And this is amazing. Like, so you lost with white here. You were taking it easy on somebody. There are 1,500. Encourage the young players, Princess Chess. Just don't let them know that you threw the game, okay? After Queen f7. Alright, we've got a couple games left. Kakatiri. Kakatiri. Sounds so Russian. Alright, guys. We're going to go through the rest of the games here. Yes, you can submit the game. Paida. There's Paide. Paide. There was this guy on my stream for a while, Paide. Whatever happened to him? Paida Chiba. It's got to be like Serbian or something. Paida Kliba. Kakatiri playing black. Alright, everybody's black. You know, we got d4, King's Indian, knight f3, bishop g7, e3. Oh, not again. Somebody needs to, like, seriously burned that guy. That Spike, what's his name? Axel Smith. Really, E3 poison is making people play this stuff? We've got to get rid of this. This is driving me crazy. Who plays this stuff with white? E3. It's insipid. Speaking of insipid, it's almost worse than the London system. Pi Day, right, was playing on my stream. It's a Bosnian guy. He was playing on the team sometimes. That's a different guy, though. Okay, E3, really, really safe, solid setup. Castles, okay. Now Bishop D3. So normally white plays stuff along the lines of Bishop E2, B3, Mr. Coffee actually likes E3, usually without C4. That's different. It is slightly different. Fortuna Chess Coach, welcome. With the flames. Thank you for the donation. Okay, after Bishop D3, what this is looking like to me is, maybe not a bad idea. I'll give you an example. Here's Botvinnik and Kaidanov on the King's Indian attack. So take a normal King's Indian attack, right? How would it go? Maybe King's Indian attack against French. E4, E6, D3, right? C5, Knight F3, D5, G3, or whatever, Knight on BD2, Knight F6. See, that's where I want to switch up. No Knight F6, but Knight C6. John Watson recommends this and play the French too. G3. Instead of doing this sort of traditional King's Indian attack defense, like Fischer versus, what's his name, Magmercerin, the famous game where Fischer like brutally checkmated that guy from Mongolia. I think he's probably still alive. I don't know. Knight F6. You can go here for black, and this was played by Botvinnik with the idea of putting the knight on E7. And Watson is one of the players I know who recommended in his French book not to necessarily block the F pawn. The powerful E3 system. So, I mean, in these lines where you go G3, Bishop D6, there's the pawn fork, right? But if white ever tries to set it up, the point is, like, I've seen Kaidanov play with black, for example. Castles, Rook E1. Alexander Goldin, those guys are actually friends. I've seen him play as well. I mean, black can play like F6, and you're never going to get in E5. So if you're going to put the bishop on D6, it has to be in a situation where you're not getting forked, of course, by E5. But let's check this out. So castles, normally white plays like bishop E2. You don't want to get forked by D6, E5, E4, obviously. But white here plays bishop D3. So he's playing bishop D3 in a position where he's walking into a potential fork with D6 and E5. And he doesn't have, the knight E2, sort of knight E2 F3 like Botvinnik formation. How is he going to deal with the threat of D6, E5, E4 if you just pile up everything behind that? I mean, the only conceivable thing he could do is like back his bishop off to C2, maybe, which is really weird. So I don't agree, like, Stockfish giving you a dubious for D6. Okay, I mean, this is a perfectly normal move, and you shouldn't get criticized for it. The computer says D5 is better. Okay, it's a different approach. I think C5 is also good. You can choose any of these moves. C5, probably D5, and D6. I don't think it's correct. The D6 is a mistake. Castles, knight BD7, knight C3, E5. And so, yeah, I mean, it looks like a standard sort of position. You're going to play rook E8 and then try to push through with E4. I can't believe white's better here. Right now, Stockfish at depth 30 is claiming that white has a slight edge after queen C2. Wow. Really? Oh, it's gone. Oh, it's back. No, it's gone. No, depth what? It's depth 23 now. So how quickly can we equalize? Queen e7. And we're threatening rook e8 and e4. b4, rook e8, or c6. And look. Now even Stockfish 13 has to play bishop e2 because it's like, oh crap, what am I going to do about e4? And it's still equal according to the engine there. But that doesn't seem right. So your setup is absolutely okay. This is a classic mistake. So he's giving up a strong point on d4. Take with the pawn. You could also take with the knight, but I mean there's a chance like white could play and try to retain the structure and have an advantage based on control of d5. Pawn takes is more ambitious. Queen c2, and that's why d takes e is a bad move. Well, one reason, right? When he plays this move, why is this a mistake? To take on e5, because now black can use this square and this square as outposts for the knight when my pawn pushes up to e4. That's not a possibility if white doesn't surrender their strong point on d4. So I'm not sure about knight c5. Let's see. I mean, you do have to think about development, but I like the fact that you're focusing on controlling e4 here. This looks good. I mean, I guess he could try to grab a pawn. There are some crazy complications. Knight g4. This actually looks pretty cool. Knight g4, knight g4, queen d3. Queen d3, knight d3 with full compensation based on activity. I imagine knight c5 is okay. Now rook d1. Grab it. It looks like you played right. I mean, it's solid. And you're slightly better. If e4, I guess c6. So he plays this, takes, and he can't take with the pawn because of bishop f5. And now we just have the two bishops and our chicks for free, right? It's just two bishops and better development. Unopposed white square bishop. I don't want this to get shut down too much. When you have a more active move, you could play bishop e6 probably. It's not as bad as Sadamasa's c6, but you know, it's a pretty normal move. I might play c6. Peter's a little harsh there. And now it's just like, wow. White played like Stockfish level 3 in this game. Bishop takes f3, gf3, queen g5 check. Is that enough? Do we have enough? Do we have enough advantage though? Feels like white's like hanging on here. f5, man, that's kind of slow. I would be very hard pressed to part with my white squared bishop, honestly. Yeah, but I mean, you got to be careful. You may be giving up a lot. You know, I agree. It's tempting. I had a game very similar to this with Princess Chess on the stream once, where I like gave up my long range bishop on f3, and then I had like nothing. But she controlled the open file. I mean, here white doesn't have control of the open file. You're definitely better, but is it enough? Is that weakness of his kingside alone enough for you to win with your bishop restricted? I don't know. You know, maybe you should go for the file. Maybe this is a more fundamental move, something like rook d8. Then white has nothing better than maybe bishop d2. There's also the possibility of e4. In some positions it doesn't work here. I'm not sure if you did the right thing giving up your... And this looks kind of slow. But maybe it's good enough. It's possible that it's enough. You have stuff like Queen H5, hitting that. But how are you going to finish him off if King G2? Maybe just E4? Rook G1 doesn't look right. I mean, White has to get the pieces developed, so I'm playing this. How are you finishing him off? White has to get his last pieces developed, whatever it is. Oh, this is problem, because now this is weak. He cuts off his queen from being able to come over to E2. Maybe White needs to play like Queen E2 right away. And then Queen H5, and you're threatening like E4. Because his queen is unprotected. Anyway, I mean, you're better. I don't know if it's a forced win. But Rook G1 probably doesn't help him that much. And now he weakens his white squares, and his bishop's blocked in. And he's playing without a rook. The theme of today is don't develop your queen rook. We learned this today at chess class. Don't play with odds of your queen rook, kiddies. So pawn takes pawn was a blunder according to the engine. You're expanding the horizons of his bishop on c1. This is like the best his bishop's been all game. Controlling f4 now. It's unbelievable. Every little move counts, right? You're making his bishop great again. It's amazing. I mean, this looks like a totally innocuous move. But you probably had better. Something more one-dimensionally, you know, improving your position. It looks good, though. And then, yeah, definitely don't want to trade queens. You're still clearly better, though. So if queen f3, he has rook g3. He's still hanging on. It's not like you had an obvious win. It's a computer move, rook e2, that was a win. But that's not so simple to find. This doesn't, you know, you probably looked at this and rejected it because of this. And now he's going to force a trade of queens anyway. It's easy to miss rook e2. So this is still winning, though. You know, I think this is a winning endgame. Better structure, better king, pawns on the wrong colors, isolated, double pawns on f4. But focus on his bishop being trapped. Okay, he's going to come with bishop e3. Only move. Now, what about the open file? Maybe you want to shut him down. I would give serious thought to rook d8 rather than taking his pawn. I'm not sure. See, I thought here, like, White's last chance would be to try to get an open file of his own, but it's probably hopeless, actually. He's probably lost at that point. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that's obvious to me is that you're not really thinking about your king. No king moves in the endgame, really? This is a great square. Get the king up. If he plays h5, we can play rook e6 or something. Don't forget about your king in the endgame. You're like material hunter. Kakatiri, pawn hunter. But, you know, that pawn, for example, isn't going anywhere. We don't have to be in a hurry to go after that pawn. I think it's more important to secure your position. So I would think, like, here, you would consider either taking or playing, like, rook e6. Everything's kind of under control. Admittedly, it's not over yet. I mean, he still has some counterplay. You're still winning here, though. This is fine. Finally. King is a strong piece. And that's it. I mean, b5 is the most clear. That's it. Good game. All right. Guys, we got late submissions. I'm going to go through these a little quicker. From Dongers. Is it just one late submission? Silly China and Dongers are the same person. Alright, last game. Alright, Silly Dongers. Let's take a look. Time for me to go to bed. It's been a long day. Oh, we've got an analyzed game. That was fast. Does anybody know if there's a way? This would be really cool. Man, it would be really awesome if you could like dictate words and it could just like, yeah, there's got to be a way to do that, right? Come on, we can annotate our games, dictate. There has to be a program. Of course, it will probably. There's got to be like a dictation app, right? Because I can't deal with my computer anymore. Like, it's keyboard. My keyboard sucks. I can't type numbers. Text to speech through the computer. But I mean, can you get it speech to text, right? I think I tried to sign up for that once. Through Microsoft. And then it was like hassling me or something. I guess all text to speech programs want you to like sign up into something. I was hoping there'd be something really easy to use that did in Buoy 49 original speech to text, just so I could like dictate my annotations and like just drop them in a study really easily. That's how Donger set this up, like in 5 minutes. I can't type worth a damn with my crappy keyboard. D4, knight f6. This is Dongers. I normally play the Budapest. No, I like the Budapest, but not for tournament chess. Alright. D4, knight f6, c4. As long as you don't play the knight e4 variation, we'll let it slide, Dongers. C4, e6, knight c3. And now d6. Oh my god. I saw this move played by Kostyniuk in Blitz. I mean, okay, like, it's normally play the two knights tango, right? Like knight c6. And Bologan recommended, I think Bologan had a book on this crap. Say, for example, in this line, what do you do? If e6, for example, you can kind of like backdoor into a King's Indian. If you don't feel like playing a Nimzo, you could play like d6. I guess a3 is the move that I'm thinking of, though. Yeah. So it would be like a3 type of lines. So we would go normally knight f3, e6, a3, and now we're going to backdoor into a King's Indian. With the pawns on d6 and e6, and g6 and bishop g7. So I could see that, like, if White plays this really, really dumb move like a3, then it's more justified. So that's cool. Thanks, Boo49, for the link there. Make a note of that. This is justified by the silly move a3, which actually weakens White's queenside. For me, this is just like horsing around. It can't be good to do this. You're basically playing the old Indian tempo down or something. So now knight on bd7, and then White tries to punish it by playing f4, which seems reasonable. This seemed like an overextension to me. No, I think you're exaggerating. I think that it would be possible for White to overextend, but I can't imagine that it could be wrong to play f4. There are different ways to play, though. You know, White definitely has probably several different setups here that give him an advantage. But I wouldn't call it overextension. Even though Stockfish says e4 is the best move. I need to control some center, so I play c5, even though Stockfish says e4 is the best move. It loses a pawn tempo. Yeah, I mean, you have a bad position. I would venture that maybe white already has clear advantage and your best is something like e5, but I don't know. I would think this would be the best try. You know, that endgame leaves white with the worst structure. So this is probably knight f3, and you're playing like a weird. You're playing a weird Philidor, a tempo down or something. You're gonna have to play like an open Philidor or exchange Philidor. White can play with knight takes, queen takes. I have my doubts about it, but that probably looks like the best. Okay, after c5, you're gonna get a bad Benoni, but I guess things could be worse. White could also keep the tension and let you play like a weird Sicilian with something like knight f3, cd4. But d5 is like the principled move. You have a very, very sick looking Benoni with the knight on d7 blocking your bishop. So it's a good 4 pawns attack. And now white played, oh sorry, black's move, e5, okay. So this is crazy but understandable. If Dongers doesn't do something, white might overrun him. And there's also the possibility of taking on e6. e5 is not a bad idea, probably. From a practical standpoint, I condone that move. You know, even though it seems crazy what you did here, these other options like allowing e5 or taking on e6 could be very dodgy for black. So e5 is probably not that bad. Knight f3, keeping the tension. E takes f4. You're going for this point on e5, but I would think like you should hold on to that. Your position is pretty slow, so I understand that you took on f4 to go for control of e5. Are you going to play like knight g4 or something? You've got to keep control of e5. Alright, bishop takes, bishop e7. You're going to let white play e5 if necessary. This was worth considering. Probably. Not very developmental. Bishop e7, bishop d3. Yeah. Well, it's like he played f4 against the Czech Benoni. I'm sure that white will say computer has a huge advantage here. But it's not that easy to play. Yeah. +1. Actually, not that bad. Bishop d3, I'm not sure. Castles. Castles. So knight h5. This is actually an idea I looked at with Asterbait in some kind of Czech Benoni line. Yeah, maybe this is actually black's best move. Trying to keep him off the pressure here. But black is like trying to hold on with a blockade of e5. Is g4 an option? It's risky. And then you got the classic Czech Benoni. If you consolidate e5, you could even... I could see black could even conceivably be better. The Czech Benoni is bad, though. I had a conversation with someone recently about that. Czech Benoni it almost loses by force if you're like playing against a computer or something. It looks really, really bad. Queen e2, bishop f6, controlling e5. And now you locked it down. So at this point, I would say it's a fortress, and black is equal if he maintains that e5. Winning is another. Like, I don't think it's possible to win unless like white just goes too far. So we just have to be happy if we consolidated control of e5. We're holding. What do you want white to play now? You did the redevelopment like Tobias did. The key square is e5 though. This is way more justified than his. But what about queen e7? actually. Along the same lines, why not here? Wouldn't we rather have this with your like queen taking here than move the rook off of f8? That's exactly the same thing I was criticizing Tobias for in the previous. To play queen e7, bishop d7, rook a e8. A e8. I saw after trades I still have f4. So I figured I could at least draw this. After what trades? You mean f5? f5. So, yeah, he doesn't really want to trade dark square bishops. You've got a good grip. I would think Petrosian would play maybe something like f6, but it stops f6. He's threatening bishop e5. Wow. Yeah, so you're probably okay. Obviously, a computer would never lose this position with white. A human definitely can. It's a pity. Trade-off. In a sense. You know, so going back, I mean, I don't know. Do you really want to play f5 at the end of the day? Unfortunately, now you probably have to, but I think your better option was like I said, to play something like queen e7. If we could get this type of position, where our rook guards f2, then play bishop d7 and bring the other rook over. Like, you don't necessarily have to play f5. Like, you could maybe wait a little bit and improve your position. Or possibly play for a6 and b5 on the queen side. The important thing is that we consolidate e5 and keep these points protected. We don't have to play f5. I admit it looks fine. He has the file, and now he gets rid of his bad bishop. I mean, could you take with a knight? It looks like black is significantly behind in development. You know, so moves like subtly moves like this might be big problem. With knight e4, knight f6, black has to be really careful. So sadly, had to exchange his bad bishop off for your good bishop, and it's getting closer to equal. Wow. I mean, do we want the king here or on h8? This, I guess, forces him to play g5. It's probably better. We're still kind of compressed here. This is a bit unpleasant. I looked at h6. I mean, is it crazy to consider h6? You want to come here, right? Yeah, rook c8, rook c7, and over. And now there's suddenly this. We've got the h-pawn move. Man, his space advantage is brutal. I thought the point was he would attack you over there. Doesn't he have rook h3? Wait, what am I missing here? h5? Or h something? Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything, I guess. And now white might actually be overextended. I don't agree with your earlier f4. If White's overextended, maybe in this moment he's starting to get overextended with like h4 for the first time. Maybe. H6 is kind of risky, but I understand it. You could sack the exchange. This is a great position to sack the exchange, dude. Where, honestly, I mean, h4 is a move that I have very big questions about. Because after that, all bets are off. Now his king is more open. With the h-pawn gone, you play like rook f7 take, and you play with queen and knight against rook and knight. Maybe you have a pawn for it, and better practical chances. This is a great chance. I would definitely sack the exchange there. So he backs off. And it looks like he's a tiny bit overextended. g5, the weakness around the king. Right? Target here. Now our rook is a little bottled up. Now we sack the exchange. I mean, you could sack the exchange right here. I mean, I'm sure that you're at least equal. But you have better practical chances. Computer would never ever lose this position with white, but a human, the computer will probably say white is better. 0.1. No, it's like dead equal. I thought the engine was going to say white is better. But in a practical situation, black is much better for a human. So I would have just sacked it right away. Played this. And he like forced you to do it. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. You took with the queen anyway. So it's equal. But with better practical chances than you would think. And a second weakness. And the break with b5. Magnus Carlsen. You got to get in b5, b4, a5, a4 with a lobster claw. Like you did against me. Man, white's crazy with his king g4. That's kind of psycho. Wow. I'm not sure that's a good idea, objectively. Like, what if you were to bring your king over to the other side or something and hide? Now he sacked back. This must be time pressure. He agreed to a draw. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're better here. Why don't you play b5? With his king, crazy king on g4, you got the queenside break now. Is he going to take and play a4 and have a passer? Wow, the computer has a move for white. Queen here, I didn't see this. Driving you off of defending f5. Wow. Alright. I didn't see he was threatening queen e4. Oh my god. King g4 is not so crazy. Is that like the best move? Really? It looks insane. So you had b5 now. Instead of b6. You could have gone for it. Then queen f3. Wow, okay. Yeah, it's probably just a draw. It's a long day. It was a long day. Anyway, good game. Interesting delayed check, Benoni. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. CET. Thanks to everybody. It's been my pleasure. Let's see if we can do a raid with Mr. Vital Evente. So stay tuned for Vital Evente. He's streaming now live, guys. I will see you all later. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Thanks, Mr. Coffee. Bye-bye, guys. Later.